Hey guys, and welcome! In one of my last videos, we went back to Battlefield 5, the latest attempt of the series on the World War II scenario, but there have been many more, so today we go all the way back to the first ever title of the franchise and also a World War II game, Battlefield 1942. For some of you, it might look like a clunky, pixelated retro shooter, for others it might be a great childhood memory. But no matter how you see it, it is definitely an iconic shooter game that was the start of a great series. If you want to know how you can play the game yourself these days, be sure to click the link in the info box or at the end of this video, where you can find a step-by-step tutorial and everything else you need to know to run it. The first time that I played Battlefield 1942 was in 2019, which is not long ago, especially when you consider that the game turns 20 this year. Back in 2002, when the game was released, I was more focused on single-player games and not much into multiplayer. And Battlefield 1942's way of telling the story with bot lobbies and a short briefing before each match just wasn't my thing. But in 2019, Battlefield 5 brought me to 1942 because I was interested what the first World War II shooter of the series felt like and what gameplay mechanics were already available back then. And I was honestly very surprised, because especially in comparison to Battlefield 5, there have been many similarities, besides the setting of course. For example, the stationary ammo and med crates, where you have to resupply and heal yourself. There is no automatic healing in the game, and you also run out of ammo pretty fast if you don't pay attention. When you reload your weapon while there are still bullets in the magazine, you will lose the complete mag, including these bullets. And at the beginning I didn't know this and was used to the mechanics that the bullets that are left in the magazine magically find their way back into my pockets. So I was wondering why I ran out of ammo so fast and had to spend half of the match at the ammo stations. Back then this was a normal mechanic. These days you only find it in some hardcore shooters. But that's probably why the whole attrition system of Battlefield 5 wasn't very well received at the beginning. And to be honest, every time I go back to Battlefield 1942 I have to get used to this again. Another thing I had to learn when playing 1942 for the first time was that you have to know which faction you play. Cause one team appears with red names above their heads and the other with blue. In today's shooter games it doesn't matter which team you play, your enemies always appear with red dots or names. But in 1942 this isn't the case. When you play on the Axis side, your teammates appear with red names and you have to shoot at the blue named soldiers. When you play as an ally, it's the other way around. And of course, when I played my first few matches in multiplayer, I didn't know this and I thought I have to shoot the red guys. And since team killing is enabled by default in 1942, you can imagine that my teammates weren't very happy about this. So, long story short, I've been kicked from the server a few times back then before I understood what was going on and what I was doing wrong. And that was basically my very first Battlefield 1942 experience. But once I got the hang of it, I really started to enjoy the game and also started to understand what people were missing in Battlefield 5. Because 1942 has a completely different atmosphere. It comes with these iconic World War II maps and battles like Wake Island, Stalingrad, Berlin or Omaha Beach that players know and expect from a World War II shooter. And all of these maps have their very unique combat style. Some are massive and mostly focused on vehicles and aircrafts, while others are made for more infantry combat. There are 21 maps available now with 6 different factions that are either fighting for the Axis or the Allies, depending on the map that is played. Also, Battlefield 1942 has a class system with 5 unique classes, of which some were available in similar ways in later titles. There is the Scout class that is made for ranged combat and reconnaissance and is equipped with a sniper rifle and a scope to call in artillery, with which you can deal massive damage. But the artillery is not AI controlled or comes automatically. It has to be controlled by another player that looks out for the markers of the scouts, so very team focused. The Assault class is made for close and mid-range action, like it is in basically every other Battlefield game, and is equipped with an assault rifle, but you only have access to the weapons that fit the factions, so the Axis side has the STG-44 for example. A class that I was a bit confused about at the beginning is the anti-tank class, cause it is specifically made to counter enemy vehicles with a rocket launcher. And that means it doesn't have a primary weapon. It only has a pistol and a few grenades alongside the launcher and that's it. So pretty weak against infantry, but very strong against vehicles. So again, focused on team play and the combination of different classes within the team. Then there's the medic that has the same task as usual, to heal teammates with a med pack. As a weapon he carries a fast-firing SMG. And as the last class there's the engineer, who is probably the most versatile and powerful class of the game. Engineers are equipped with a marksman rifle, with AT mines that can be dropped on the ground to counter enemy vehicles, with dynamite that can either be used against infantry or vehicles, and with a wrench to repair the team's vehicles and stationary weapons. So a very extensive loadout compared to the other classes. But still, all of them are fun to play, and with each class you feel like a valuable member of the team that can help to turn the match to your team's favor, if you play your class right. So looking at all of this, the atmosphere, the iconic battles on massive maps with vehicles and infantry, and the focus on team play, I can totally understand that this game still has such an active player base. Of course, I'm not talking about thousands of players, but it surprised me to find at least 100 people online on a Monday morning. And in the evenings or on the weekends it's even more. About 2 to 3 full servers can then be found in the game's online multiplayer. Plus, the servers that were originally created for up to 64-player matches have been modified to run games with up to 128 players. The only negative thing is that you can encounter cheaters every once in a while, and especially when you are new to the game, the multiplayer might be really hard at the beginning, cause you play against a lot of people that probably play this game for 20 years already. So it takes a bit of time to get into it and might be a bit chaotic at the beginning. But in addition, and also as a good way to get into the game, there's still a single player part available, but not in the way that you know it from other Battlefield games like BF3 or 4. Cause single player in 1942 means that you play the whole game and all of its multiplayer maps in matches against AI. You can even play in co-op with or against friends, so basically the same way it returned with Battlefield 2042. Only that in the first Battlefield titles, being able to play offline against bots was a normal thing, and it took quite a while for this feature to return to the series. The single-player matches start with a short briefing that give you more insight on the war and the movement of troops and what the goal of the upcoming battle is. And just like the online multiplayer matches, it gives you the feeling of being part of a team, where everyone has to play their part instead of being a single hero that saves the day. But of course, you can also feel that the game is almost 20 years old. It feels a bit slow and clunky compared to today's titles and more like a hardcore shooter with its friendly fire and lots of mechanics to communicate with your team. What I like a lot, for example, and at the same time always miss in most modern shooters, is that in the spawn screen you can see how many people are already playing a specific class. It's so simple and yet only available in a few games. Also, the gunplay is pretty simple and there's of course no customizations. Not even weapon upgrades or anything. But it also doesn't feel like the game would need this, cause it has so much depth in team play and gameplay mechanics, which is much more important. Also, the available modes are kept simple with Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag and Conquest. Only that Conquest is available in different variants, cause besides the normal Conquest, there's also the Conquest Assault mode that many of you might know from Battlefield 1, where one side owns all objectives at the beginning of the match and tries to defend them, while the attacking side has to recapture them. So it's definitely interesting to go back to this iconic Battlefield title if you can and experience it. In addition to the base game, there are also 2 DLCs available that are included if you can find the Anthology of World War II edition of the game, and that add even more maps, factions, weapons and theaters of war. The most interesting is surely Secret Weapons of World War II that came with 9 additional maps and different prototypical and experimental weapons, gadgets and vehicles like a jetpack or a stealth bomber. And if that's not enough, then there's a long list of mods available that turn the game into a World War I shooter, for example, or make it more historically accurate and also add better graphics and textures. An official remake, by the way, at least of some of the multiplayer maps, is Battlefield 1943 that was released in 2009 only for consoles. But that's a story for another video. And that's it for today. I hope you like these little trips into the past of the Battlefield franchise, and if you have played 1942 yourself, tell me in the comments below how your experience was and what you liked about the game. And if you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumb up and subscribe to the channel to stay tuned for more content like this. Until then, thanks for watching. I'm the Catwoman, and you are awesome.